Thank you for coming back to this episode of the Law of Relevancy podcast. Today I'm joined by two of the most relevant people in all of Tampa Bay. People who've been telling the Tampa Bay business stories for over a decade. Bridgette Bello and Jason Baker. Thank you guys for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
Well, I'm really pumped about having you guys in here. You guys are everywhere.
We are tired.
And we made special time for you.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Jason. And you know, you guys are one dynamic duo. How long have you guys been working together?
It's been 7-ish years now. Feels like a lot longer than that.
Yeah, it does feel like a lot longer than that. We're like long lost souls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Together.
Pretty much.
Which is okay.
Our families love each other. We spend most holidays together. We obviously are work husband and wife, but our real husbands and wives are okay with it. So it's pretty awesome.
I say we're
synergy.
brother and sister in a past life. How about that? That works, right? That's a good one.
Sure.
Well, so now you guys are publishing the Tampa Bay Business and Wealth magazine, and it's going really well, right?
It is. May 1st will be the kickoff of our 4th year. It's been an incredible ride. This community, I can't say enough about. I mean, honestly, it's been heartwarming, humbling. I mean, all the most incredible things. You know, we joke all the time that could we have launched a magazine in another market? Absolutely. Would we have reached the success that we've reached in the last almost 4 years somewhere else? Absolutely not. That is purely a testament to Tampa Bay.
You know, when you say 4 years, I almost have to sit back and count it. I'm like, has it really 4 years?
Yeah.
How has it gone by that fast? And then through COVID and everything else, I mean, it's just where we didn't skip a beat. I mean, we just kept on moving and shaking and just, you know, making chess moves that brought us out on top the whole time. But 4 years. Wow. Yeah.
Well, you guys have worked together really well together. How did you guys know that you were such a great team? How do you know that?
So I'll let him answer after I give you my answer. I always laughingly say we fell in love over the phone. Jason was in Virginia Beach, and I was looking for somebody to be my right hand, basically, to run the sales department, to kind of be all things revenue in our previous lives. And we talked to each other on the phone every day for a month on the way home, and we were both going home way too late.
That's a long interview process.
It was a long interview process, absolutely.
I remember my sunroof exploded one day when I was on the phone.
His sunroof exploded one day on the phone with me. Yeah,
weird.
that happened.
So you got to see how he dealt with adversity.
Absolutely, yeah. But we could talk for hours, you know, and we were on the same page when it came to ways to deal with adversity and things that were going on at our respective places of employment at the time. And, you know, I'll let him tell you the part about when he came down, because I love when he tells that story. But we knew, just based purely on our phone relationship before he ever flew down here, that we were a match made in business heaven, or a business match made in heaven, or whatever the best way to say that is.
Well, I remember when you made the offer and you were like, this is the offer. You know, either you can take it and come down and we do great things, or I've made a really good friend in Virginia.
Yep.
I remember those exact words.
That's
sitting in my
nice.
driveway. I know the story you're referring to. So I was employed. I was doing great up there in Virginia, and everything was fine. But it came time for me to kind of just look for a different market. I was in Virginia. We didn't have major league sports teams. You know, you look at Tampa Bay, it's like, what? Really? We got the trifecta.
We have everything.
It's the best.
We have everything.
Trifecta. Well, let's go +1. The Rowdies now, too. You got to keep the Rowdies in the mix when you talk about things like that. Because I was in Southern Virginia, so we didn't have any of those kind of good things. I had outgrown the market. And I always say, when your spouse looks at you, when your wife looks at you and says, you know how you've been talking about moving for a while?
Yeah.
I'm ready to go. Oh, well, okay. So I had looked at a bunch of other markets from our previous life. You know, I had considered moving to Boston, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., even Raleigh-Durham, which was like a smaller market than where I was in Virginia Beach. But then Tampa popped up on a radar, and like she said, we just talked and came down. My wife came down with me. We went to dinner with Bridgette and the wonderful Jose Bello, the other side of the picture. We all know Jose.
Also one of the most relevant people in town.
Exactly. And the best dressed. Even though Bridgette says she dresses him, so that's
no,
how
he says I dress him.
Oh, okay, he says
truth.
that. No, we had dinner. We walked out of the restaurant. The valet comes. Bridgette and Jose drive off. And when your wife looks at you and says, so when do you start? It's kind of like, it's boom. It was like a match made in heaven. She saw it. That was the first time she had ever met or even talked to Bridgette. And just that dinner, she was like, nah, you two are made for each other. She says, we have to do this. You will be unhappy if we don't do this. Let's put it that way. So we moved, made the big truck.
Well, my daughter calls him Dad 2.0, and his son calls me Mom 2.0. And I mean, we love each other's families, and we love each other's kids. And it really is a business relationship based in love and respect and major admiration for who each other is, I think.
Let me ask you a question. So obviously you've got a very integrated life. You've got super integrated. You're each other's work spouse, so to speak. You see each other outside of work. You spend a lot of time together. Where is that balance? like where does, like, how do people,
what is that?
how do you decide? Like me personally, I sometimes struggle with understanding like when, and I'm asking, like I struggle sometimes to understand like, hey, like these people, I spend so much time with them. I'm asking them to, do these things, and we're working together, and like they probably need a break from me, And so as much as I like everyone I work with and love them, right? How does one like make that decision? Like how do you cross into the personal versus like keep it just professional? Like,
he's pretty good at weekends
turning
kind
it
of
off
away and turning it off. And, in his defense, he still has a kid at home. His wife is a teacher. She has to be up at 5 o'clock in the morning. She has no interest in being out at networking events until whatever time it is that I'm out at networking events. And so I kind of feel like we do a good job of, I'll take the late shift because I have a dog door. I have no kids at home, and my husband is also in kind of a business development type mode. When someone asks for 7:30, the answer is no. Jason can do that. And so the mornings is Jason, the evenings and weekends is me. Of course, again, New Year's Eve we spent together.
Sure.
I mean, Christmas, we spend holidays and important times together, but
Sure.
we also understand each other's different spouses and lives and what's going on there, and compliment each other, because I don't go anywhere at 7:30 a.m. Jason does.
Yeah, that's right.
But the other side of that too is, she says I do a better job of unplugging. Unplugging means you keep yourself busy in other ways.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's, how do you get your mind off of those day to day? It was a great week. We did a lot together. Yes, we were up at 7 in the morning in front of our computers or at an event, and we didn't get home until 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night. I mean, that's the way, it's what we do every single, just about every single day, and it's about, how do you get your mind off of that on a weekend, on a Saturday? Well, you know what? I mean, I dive into housework. That's really what I do. I'll dive into housework, play the guitar, do this, do that, just to not think about it.
Sure.
Not constantly be grabbing my phone and saying, hey, Bridgette, what do we do about this? And hey, what's about that? It's, you do the same thing. You've been doing a better job unplugging. I'm proud of you on that.
But it's tough though. We're entrepreneurs, right? I mean, you guys have now you're entrepreneurs now.
Yeah.
And it's a hustle. It takes a lot of work. I mean, a lot of people think I work 24/7, and I kind of do.
Right.
My wife wishes I wouldn't do it so much, right? How did you guys make that leap? Because it is a challenge, at times, and it takes a lot of courage leaving corporate America and branching out and doing your own thing.
So I had one of the most challenging years of my life, personally, in 2017. And there were a lot of things that led up. There were a lot of changes at our previous company. There was a business philosophy. There were more than one business philosophy change that I disagreed with. To this day, I disagree with compensating reporters for selling subscriptions. I just think that completely ruins journalism. And I think as a country, we've recognized that it's a lost art. And I believe the industry did that to itself. And so that was one of the things. There was, when I took over here, I had 32 people on staff with half the amount of work as there was in 2018 when I had 18 people on staff.
You know?
It was just there were multiple things, but in 2017, I got breast cancer. The following month, my husband lost his job, and the following month, we lost our house in Hurricane Irma. And I had been with that company for 18 and a half years, and you would have thought they would have said, take care of you and your family, and they didn't. It was all about, you know, when are you back here? What have you done for me lately? What's your numbers this year? And it was just this moment of, I've run a P&L and generated millions of dollars for somebody else for the last 30 years of my life and never once made $1 million. But clearly I know how to do it, right? And so why am I killing myself and still doing this for somebody else? And he and I had a very entrepreneurial plan and relationship when he came down here, and that was.
You want me to mention that one too?
You know, he knows I didn't lie to him because that really is what the environment was when I was recruiting him.
Right. Part of was
it changed.
It was, we can run this place like we own it, like it's
Right.
ours, like and,
Right.
and that did change. And you know, and my background, I mean, I always say you catch the bug, and you've got the bug, that entrepreneurial bug. I mean, back. 2000, I started an advertising agency, ran that with a partner of mine for a good 10 years, 10, 11, 12 years. In 2008, my ex-partner and I bought a few radio stations in North Carolina with some investors and things like that. So in 2008 was a great time to buy anything, right? Yeah, it's a fantastic time. And we're still friends, the ex-partner of mine and things like that. But, it teaches you some things, though, too. It teaches you how to jump into every aspect of a business. I mean, during hard times, you do everything. You sweep the floors. When you're talking in small market radio, you're on the air, you're doing sales, you're generating invoices, you're sweeping the floors, you're out fixing transmitter sites. It's just what you do.
Right.
And there's a bug though that you catch because you like that. You like that feeling of being able to grow it the way you want to grow it, on your terms and on your ground. So that was a huge selling point for me to come down and work together in our previous life, was that entrepreneurial spirit. So we both had it, and Bridgette's got entrepreneurial things in her background as well, back when she was in Jacksonville and so on and so forth in her past. So we both had it instilled in us. It was just, how do we get it back out of us? How do we open up that can and just or how do we rub that bottle and let the genie back out? You know what I'm saying?
Well, we believed that we could do something better and different. And I think that's what drives every entrepreneur, right?
Sure.
Is I can do this better and I can do it different, and I'm going to go make that happen. And so multiple conversations together of, where we kind of saw a void in the audience or in the market. I'm sorry. There was no one that was super hyper focused on the C-suite. There was no one that was super serving that C-suite. And we did a ton of research together and looked into, okay, it's 2018. Are we crazy launching a print publication, right? Put it out there. Like, people were saying and still are saying print's dead. Well, print's not dead. You just have to do it right. And, the old saying, the riches are in the niches, is exactly what has helped us be successful. Is everything that we do, from an event perspective, from a digital perspective, from a content perspective, from an advertising perspective, is all focused into that C-suite, that decision maker, that person who is running a company. And, we talked about it earlier, inspirational and aspirational. How can we help them grow their businesses? How can we help them be a better leader? How can we help them be a better CEO? And
super targeted.
serve that audience.
And then, take that and turn that into more of an economic development focus than anything else, and talk about the good things that are going on in Tampa Bay. I mean, this market is exploding, as we all know. There are so many good things to talk about, so many great companies that are moving here from New York, Chicago, Austin, so on and so forth from around the country, because they see the growth that's going on here. That's what we go straight in at and focus on. There's no better compliment than when somebody who is pitching business out of the market to come to us and say, you know what, I take your magazine with me when I go on the road.
Right.
Because you are talking about all the good things that are going on.
You're telling the stories that no one else is telling.
Exactly.
And that really happened.
And it's working.
It did.
It's working too. I mean, like what you're talking about elevating the product that you guys have versus the competition, right? When you go to your events, they are frequented by some of the top CEOs in all of town. it's not a like I've been to these networking events before at different, with different organizations, and what happens is I'm bombarded with salespeople, and it's like, please, like I just want to chill for a second and relate to some of these people who also have employees, who also have a P&L, who also are accountable, who also have that entrepreneurial spirit, and just connect with others who are like dealing with some of the same day-to-day things that I'm dealing with. And yeah, of course, there is like some of that solicitation that can come because it's like, hey, I really like this person. We're connecting. We're going to do business together.
We always say if
we're
you
going to
end
figure
up
it
doing
out.
business together, that's great. That's how it's supposed to work. But there's no one shoving business cards in each other's faces.
Absolutely.
Right?
The second greatest compliment, and we love this story, is when I sit down with, and this actually another true story happened. Sit down with the CEO across the room, and the CEO looks at us and says, "I love your events because when I walk in the room, I feel comfortable, and I feel like I belong there." That's the way it should be. They should feel like they belong in that room, and it's a comfortable space. So.
Well, and you and I are in CEO Council, and we get asked all the time, like, are you an extension? And we're like, I mean, sort of, but not officially, right? I mean, I think really the secret sauce of the events has been intentional, just like everything else, of like, we only want a certain number of people in the room. We want it to be meaningful. We want people to leave there saying that was a really good use of my time. And we don't sell tickets. You can't buy your way in. And that's how there's nothing wrong with salespeople. They're some of the highest paid people in the world, right?
We love salespeople.
We love sales. We were both salespeople at some point, right? We just don't want them at our events. That's not what the events are for. It's for peer-to-peer networking. It's for meaningful relationships. It's for, we may do business together, we may not do business together, but we can help each other. And how do we help each other?
Right. And really, sales when it's done best is really focused on how do you help each other.
Yeah.
What are some other community-related things that you guys are involved in?
Oh my goodness.
It's a long list for you. I've
list.
seen your bio, Bridgette.
Well, his is long too.
Well, I mean, we try to be mindful to the organizations that we get involved with. I mean, we don't want to get involved with too many on a personal level. Business-wise, with Tampa Bay Business and Wealth. I mean, it's everybody. I mean, I don't think we can make the list right now of every organization that we're involved with, whether it's a not-for-profit or a nonprofit, business organization or philanthropy. I mean, you'll be hard-pressed to find an organization in one of those realms that we don't do something with for Tampa Bay Business and Wealth. We're really, really diligent about that. And we're always looking for more partners.
Well, you're telling the good stories, right?
Exactly.
And it's a great platform. It's a great platform to procure those stories out of the community work, right?
Well, we feel like if we can highlight misunderstood and underexposed nonprofits and put them in front of 15,000 CEOs, which is what we do every month, there's got to be good that comes out of that, right? I mean,
positive there is, yeah.
Yeah, well, we know there is too, because the number of them that have come back and said, we want to spend money, we want to do business with you, we want to advertise with you, because of the volume of response that they got when all we did was write about them that was purely altruistic, that was all about making a difference and doing something nice for them, right? But I think, just to answer your question on a personal level, we both have been touched by cancer. Me personally, Jason through his in-laws and also his
my family,
father.
right?
Like, I mean, you're hard pressed to find somebody who hasn't been, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My dad just told me on Monday that his cancer came back.
I'm sorry. We will add him to the list of
add him
people
to the
that
list. I know,
yes,
right?
I have a mother-in-law who has a superpower rosary, so I'll ask you later. Give me his name, and we'll put him on the rosary.
Perfect. I appreciate it. Yeah.
But super involved in cattle barons. I'm on CEOs Against Cancer.
Yep. I also sit on a local board of advisors for American Cancer Society. Yes, and then Cattle Barons Ball. Real Men Wear Pink, and they keep. I'm always doing something. Let's put it that way.
Something to do with American Cancer
Because I can't say
Society.
no. That's the problem.
It's one of the best causes.
It is.
Right. Yeah.
Well, again, because, if you're in a room, and we used to do this exercise, and I don't know if they still do it or not, but we'd say, who in the room has had cancer? And you'd see a third of the room, the hands go up. Who in the room has a family member who's had cancer? You'd see the other third of the hands go. Who in the room knows somebody who's had cancer? And you get 100% of the people in the room with their hands in the air. You're just hard pressed to find somebody who's not been touched by it. I'm a domestic violence survivor. That's something that's very important to me. And so I've been extremely involved in that for the last 15 years. I'm emeritus on the board of directors for the spring now because they have term limits. But I talk about it at every opportunity that I can, and let people know that it's not something that should be kept quiet or that you should be embarrassed about, and
Right.
that, it happens to smart, educated, powerful women just as much as it does to women who are not. I'm thinking of all the different boards that we're on and trying to go through all of them.
Well, the reason I asked the question is, how cool is it to have a product where you can so effectively help so many great organizations?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys have got to love what you do.
It is. It's cool to have. I mean, it's a mouthpiece. It really, really is for the things that we believe in. I mean, it's, and then I come back to the professional side. I do a lot with Leadership Tampa Bay. I'm incoming chairman of that board, which means we're recruiting right now for the class of 2023. Yay! But I believe in the mission when it comes to Leadership Tampa Bay, because it focuses on leaders and emerging leaders and really gets them to concentrate on what are the issues within Tampa Bay and how can they help. Whether that's transportation, whether that's affordable housing, whether that's the education gap, whatever that is, we kind of focus in on that with them. And let's face it, every leader and emerging leader can use more of that information and knowledge to know how they can give back and jump into the community itself. So that's a big one for me. And then the Alliance for Mergers and Acquisition Advisors, I also sit on that board and do a lot of work with that. And that's exactly what it says, mergers and acquisitions and professional services that are in there. And of course, there's a lot of other philanthropy, but Bridgette, you got a couple more to add there too. Think about professional organizations, stuff like that too.
Oh, CEOs Against Cancer.
ACG, we do a lot of work.
We do a lot with ACG. I was the chair for the Alzheimer's Gala for 2020 and 2021, the best years to chair a gala ever.
That's right.
That was amazing.
If you're good at Zoom.
Yeah.
If you're good at Zoom. But I think what really comes across about you guys and how you're able to connect with people is that you guys are genuinely authentic. And I think that really helps and supports a lot. And I think it has a lot to do with how successful you guys are.
I agree with you. It's probably the number one thing people say to us, and I don't think there's a greater compliment, right? I mean, some people don't necessarily like my directness, but there's not a person in this town that doesn't know where they stand with me, right? Because I'm genuinely authentic. It's who we are, right? And
we don't have time not to be.
I know. I was going to say it saves us a lot of time.
It does save us a lot of time.
Yeah, thanks, Bridgette.
But we also, so we won Small Business of the Year last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. One of the greatest accomplishments.
That is a legit award.
That was fun.
It is a lot of work. It is 9 months of self-introspection and team introspection and really figuring out at the end of the day who you are, not only as a company, but as a team and as a member of this business community, right? And one of the things that they asked us about was our community involvement. And you've, again, seen the bios. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. But when we sat down and actually analyzed everything that we had done, which at that point was 3 years, and a tremendous amount of it through the pandemic, and added it up, we could have never written a $500,000 check.
Right.
But that's what we gave back in 3 years, and it was banners in our newsletters for the nonprofits that were feeding people, and it's the spreads that we do every month on the different philanthropic organizations that are making a difference in this community. And
that exposure has a lot of value.
Making it a place that people want to live, right? I mean,
and there's a chance that $500,000 value that you gave probably resulted in millions of dollars of support for those organizations.
So.
Yeah.
We hope so.
That's
At
the goal.
The end of the day, that's absolutely what we hope for. And, I mean, they say there's 1,000 people a day moving here, which is terrifying to me. But at the same time, it means we're doing something right.
It's not being real estate.
Yeah.
Right? No, I'm in traffic is what I'm in.
Yeah.
Well,
the other cool thing that we learned from that process, and I'll give a good friend of ours a plug, in Brian Butler, District Communications. We're talking with Brian, and he was like, you guys you need to figure out what you are and who you are and what you do. What exactly are you? He says, you've got a great magazine. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. You do great highlights of CEOs that need to be recognized and their stories told. And, and you super serve those CEOs that are reading it, so on and so forth. You got a great digital product. Everything's always free. You're pumping good news out there on social media or on the website or in the weekly e-newsletter that we send out, things like that. He goes, and then you do these events. And in particular, that CEO Connect at the end of every month, that all of the C-suite feel very comfortable in that room, like they belong there, like I said before. He goes, but at the end of the day, what do you really do? And we kind of looked at each other and we're like, we make connections.
Yeah, you're the business glue.
We connect the community through all of those things, because the people that are in that room at the end of the month, they're consumers of all those other things. They're part of, ready for it? They're part
The
of
ecosystem.
They're part of that ecosystem that we've created. Everybody drink.
Yeah.
Jason said
Even Cords knows it.
Jason said ecosystem.
Yeah.
Just water. I promise.
Unfortunately.
But no, it's they become a part of that ecosystem, and they work together, they feed off each other, they become friends, they refer business to each other, and it's all because of that publication, that digital content, and because of that event.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool.
Well, we hear
You know?
those stories, and I always end it with, that's how it's supposed to work, right? At the end of the day, that's how it's supposed to work. That's what we get up for every morning. That's what keeps us going. And actually, my publisher's letter in the April edition, which is on press, so I promise you I didn't make this up, is all about the power of making those connections and that being truly what drives us. And back to kind of the beginning of the conversation, why we say, sure, we could have been successful with this in another market,
Sure.
but not to the degree that we have been here, because we've had people pushing us up the hill saying, what do you need? How do we help?
That's
Right.
what's so cool about being a real, authentic person is you end up building a giant support system of people who want you to succeed.
Yeah. We live in an incredible town with an amazing business community that I couldn't be more proud and honored to be a part of.
That's that ecosystem. We can't do it without.
Drink.
I know. We can't do it without them. We can't.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about journalism and where it's going. Obviously, you guys are veteran journalists. You've been in the biz for a while. You guys are experts at it. What is happening with journalism? I mean, you talked about the one fundamental issue that created problems.
There's a lot of fundamental issues. And for somebody who is a First Amendment junkie, I mean, I went to school for journalism. My first job was at Florida Today, USA Today. I was the editor for my school newspaper. I was a reporter at the Alligator, which is a nationally renowned student newspaper at the University of Florida. I really am a First Amendment junkie. But what that translates into is a truth seeker and somebody who wants to hold our public officials and the people who run things accountable, right? And we've lost that. We have absolutely 100% lost that. And if I talk through the evolution of what I watched, and unfortunately I'm no spring chicken, so I have been in the media business since the early 90s. I talk about, I was in journalism school then, and they were telling us then, get out of the print business. Like, print's going away. It's not going to be around well, that was 30 years ago, right? So it's like, okay, clearly print's not going away. Yeah. It's evolved and things have changed. But watching what has happened in the true truth seekers, people who believe in the First Amendment and who believe in freedom of the press and who believe in holding elected officials and others accountable, they've gotten out of the business. They have left the business. When I left my previous position, when Jason and I both left, there were 3 reporters who left at the same time because they knew we were the only buffer between them and what was coming. And they got out of the business in most cases. It has changed, and I believe, and I would say this on national television, that that's where fake news came from. When you compensate a reporter for selling a subscription or somebody clicking on a headline, the headlines get more salacious. The stories get more negative. It just,
The
it's human
incentive
nature.
structure is supporting what we are dealing with today.
Absolutely, and it breaks my heart, honestly.
Yeah, breaks my heart too. Because I'd love to be able to open up a publication and just consume it and believe it's the truth or whatever. But it seems like every time I look at any kind of a news outlet, any kind of a media story or whatever, I always have to pass it through my own BS filter and go, okay, do they have a bias? Okay, so then if I pass it through that filter to understand really what that story is about. And it's not just political. It could be any number of kinds of biases that like a news outlet could have, right?
It isn't just political, but there are some egregious examples of, I mean, we're in the middle of one right now with the whole, and no politics, but the New York Times came out saying that the Hunter Biden thing was
the laptop from hell
was Russian disinformation. And then 2 days ago, I believe, buried in the 24th paragraph, which no one, P.S., goes to the 24th paragraph of a story, that, oh, yeah, actually it wasn't. It was real. And it's like, that was 2 years ago, and you're going to bury that 24 paragraphs later? And why? Why all of a sudden now is it accurate? And it wasn't accurate then. And so it really, truly, to me, they've lost their soul. They've lost their soul. And unfortunately, and you can tell this is a soapbox for me, but the end of the Super Bowl in I'm going to get this wrong, but I'm going to say 19, there was a Washington Post commercial, and all it said was on a black screen, "Democracy dies in darkness."
Right.
That makes me tear up every time I say it out loud, right? Because there's no truer words.
Yeah. So where are we headed and how do we fix it?
Jesus. Great question. A big part of why we do what we do is because we believe that you can still do it and not be clickbait and not be salacious and not be fake news. We are intentional about not being the ones to write a story about the Selman falling apart or somebody getting a divorce or someone getting indicted or a business closing. When we get pitched those stories, we say that's not a TBBW story. It's not who we want to be. We don't want to be a part of the problem. But we're also not interested in being fluff, right? We're interested in telling the stories that people want to read and the stories that can help this region grow and the stories that can make us be a place, like we went into this saying, we want our kids to want to live here. We don't want them to move to Austin or Raleigh or Atlanta or whatever the new cool market is. How do we make Tampa Bay be where our kids want to live?
Yeah.
And so we kind of wake up every morning with that in mind of, how do we help this be a better place? And that's why we get so involved from a philanthropic perspective. And it's why we tell the stories that we tell. And it's why we put the effort into finding the CEOs that are off the radar, that are employing hundreds of people, that are injecting millions of dollars into our economy, and they're just doing it quietly because they, quite frankly, don't need the press, right?
Most of the CEOs I know are not interested in any press.
Yep.
Right.
Like they get a lot of joy out of what they're doing. Obviously, they're compensated fairly for what they do, but there's a big difference between those CEOs and I had on one of my podcasts, I had the president of one of the largest assurance companies in the world, and nobody even knows who he is.
Yep.
Right. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Those are ones that
we'll ask you for that introduction
later.
Yeah,
I'll be happy to introduce you. But he's got a lot of great points, and he's got a lot of great insights, and he's incredibly successful, right? And it's cool.
And people can learn something from him.
Totally can learn something from him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think I'm sorry, I'll let you talk. I swear I'll shut up. But I think we have perfected getting those people who don't want the press to give us the opportunity to be the ones to tell their story.
Right.
So much so that we get pitched constantly now.
You guys get to break a lot of news.
We do. We get, and that wasn't something that was intentional. We didn't set out thinking, okay, we're going to break news. Magazine deadlines are 8 weeks out, 6 weeks out. You don't break news in a magazine, right? But what has happened unintentionally that has been really cool is the number of companies and individuals and organizations that have come to us and said, we want you to break our news. We can share it when you break our news.
Right. We don't want to
put it on social
paywall.
media. People can read it. We want to be associated with what your brand is.
Yeah.
And so we have ended up breaking a ton of news.
Well, let's talk about those channels for a second, because like you're saying, you can put it on social media. There are different ways. You're not just a magazine.
Right.
You're a lot of platforms.
Right.
And so you can still break news on your social channels. You can still publish it to your website that gets lots of traffic. There's lots of tools that you guys have today that you didn't have in the early 90s. So it is really cool, actually, even though the industry has seen a lot of consolidation and adversity, you guys have been able to live through all of that, and I would imagine it helps you see and predict and feel your way better through this, what's happening next.
It goes back to the name of the podcast, right? How do you stay relevant? And people like to consume their news and information in multiple different ways, and we're not all the same. We have people who say, I love the feel of the magazine. I love touching, turning the page. You know, we have people who are like, I'm never going to pick up the magazine. I'm going to read it online.
And guess what? I mean, you can go and you can read every single issue online for absolutely free. Absolutely free. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, we can hit all of those segments. You know what? If you didn't get a chance to see it and you show up at an event, there's a magazine there too for you, and you can get your stories there too. But you're right. When it comes to the breaking news portion of it, I mean, that's the small version. That's the summary. And then, of course, we can cover it more in depth in the magazine and the print edition later on that month when that comes out the door. But, I mean, is digital the future? And, again, we go back to were we crazy for starting a magazine during these times? Well,
Jason, I think it's pretty obvious to anybody listening to this, you've got a really good radio voice.
Thanks.
And you're really, really good at this.
Too.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Right. So I don't want to put you on the spot. When's the TBBW podcast going to come around?
Been talking about it for 4 years.
Yeah. I mean, there's no set date and time for launch, but
it's on the radar.
It's in the works.
Yeah.
It's definitely around the corner and being put together, so to speak. So stay tuned on that one because it will be coming.
Yeah.
Well, what I was going to say now, as Bridgette said before, the riches are in the niches. It's you look at like a Garden and Gun or those type of magazines that people sit there and they wait for that magazine. They wait for it to come in the mail. They want it. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I mean, I'm still like Rolling Stone. I mean, I don't want to read Rolling Stone online.
Right.
I want my paper copy of Rolling Stone. Yes, it stacks up in the corner. My wife wants to kill me after a while because there's too many of them. But that's what I like.
There's something about it. There's something about it. I went to the mall last weekend, and I hadn't been to a mall in a very long time, but it was so cool to be able to like walk through the clothes or walk through the products on the shelves and actually pick it up. And it's so weird because I would have never said that, like 10 years ago. Yeah. And even being a digital guy and e-commerce and all these things, but there's something that's just still magical about it. I mean, the print, that you can touch it. It's true. It's like literally there, right?
Yep.
And it occurred to me as I was leaving the mall. I was like, wow, what a concept! You can actually go to this place and peruse thousands and thousands of these like specialty products all in one place, and it's air conditioned. What an amazing, like maybe it's the future,
Well, it's funny that you brought that up because this morning on my, we all get those Facebook memories, and I was an early adopter because I was following my daughter to every social media that she adopted.
Yeah.
Going back
stalking
15, 16 years. Yeah, I was totally stalking, but it kept me kind of relevant again, right?
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh, there's no MySpace anymore. It's Facebook, and there's no Facebook anymore. It's Twitter, and there's no Twitter anymore. It's Instagram, and there was Tumblr in the middle of those, and all that.
Something happened to Snapchat, and
something
then TikTok.
happened to Snapchat.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I was on every platform. But going back to the point, in my memories today, 6 years ago, which was 2 years prior to ever even thinking about TBBW, my post was 3 magazines is not enough on a flight to Vegas with no Wi-Fi, right? And we all still get on those flights with no Wi-Fi. What do you do with yourself, right?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
The peace and quiet, the serenity.
To sit and read a book.
It's
or
like
sit
terrifying.
And read a magazine.
It's like I have to sit with myself and not be distracted for a period of time.
And not
crazy.
talk the person next to you's ear off, right?
I thought the post that popped up or the picture that popped up in your phone was me making goofy faces when I stole your phone.
That was 3 years ago.
Oh, that was 3 years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
True story, though.
True story.
Yeah, both of them are true stories, actually.
So what's next for you guys?
We always say world domination. It would be, pre-pandemic, it was going to happen a lot sooner than post-pandemic. But we'd love to see a very similarly mission-focused Orlando Business and Wealth, Jacksonville Business and Wealth, and kind of start to take this thing national. The appetite is there for it. People love the concept and the content, and we know we're on to something. And so why wouldn't we try to bring it to other markets across the United States?
Yeah, I think it works.
And at the same time, there's still a lot of room for growth here within Tampa Bay. There are a lot of things that we could be doing. You mentioned podcast. Yes, I mean, things like that are on the horizon. We just have to have the bandwidth to get them done as we roll forward. So there's plenty of room for growth here, and you'll see more big things coming out of Tampa Bay. That's for sure. Before you see us jumping to another market,
absolutely,
us expanding into another market.
Yeah, people are often shocked to know that there's 3 of us on staff.
You guys get a lot done.
that do what we do. I mean, sometimes we say 3.5 because we do have a contract event manager who's amazing, but Monday through Friday, 7 to 10, it's 3 of us that put out the digital product and keep the website updated and put out the magazine and we counted the other day and we keep saying we're not going to say it out loud, but 33 events in a year. And so it's a lot. So adding something like a podcast or, all these ideas that we have of things that we'd like to do, we're going to have to grow our team before we can.
Well, speaking of teams, I'm so glad that you're here, Jason. You are a huge part of TBBW that, everybody knows Bridgette. But to hear more of your story and what you're doing and how you're contributing is really, really cool.
I always say she's the face. Go be the face, Bridgette.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's nice for it not to be
He's the hair.
Bridgette channel.
I'm the hair.
He's the hair. There you go. hey, my hair's not bad.
This was a COVID
His hair
thing.
is exceptional, though.
It just stopped, man. The last time I got a cut, she got mad at me, so I had to grow it back out again. So here it is.
No, but it really does take. It takes all 3 of us, quite frankly. Yeah. It's not just Jason and I. I mean, the content is driven by Jolynn, and Jolynn and I have been together for, I think, 12 years now. Jason and I for 7 years. Yeah. And so, he always says, if a ball drops, one of the other 3 people will pick it up. And that's what keeps us going.
And we don't ask questions. It's, what? I mean, you messed it up. Who cares? You know what? And everybody owns up to it.
Yep. That's a great lesson.
Many times, you'll get an email from me. I screwed this up, but here's how I fixed it. So we're good. Let's just roll forward. And it's like, yep. And it's the same thing. I'll get it from her. It's just what we do. Yeah. You pick it up. You pick up the ball. You run forward with it. You fix your mistakes. You don't lie about them. You're honest about it. Even with a client, it's like, hey, look, we messed this up, but we're going to do this for you.
If you guys were a superhero team, which one would it be? Are y'all the Avengers, the Charlie's Angels, the A-Team? Like, who are you guys?
Thanks, Charlie's Angels. Thanks a lot. I got the hair, right? Is that what this is? Right, Charlie's Angels.
I kind of like that. I mean, there are more girls than boys on the team, so.
Only if I could be Charlie.
We've laughingly said Batman and Robin. Like, you can't do what you do without each other, right? And we really...
And one day she's Batman, the next I'm Batman. It's
absolutely. We absolutely rely on each other.
Robin's very important. Robin's very important in the equation.
Robin is extremely important.
Well, it's been a pleasure getting to learn a lot more about you guys, and thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having us.
You're welcome.
We always love the opportunity to talk about our passion, and you gave us that opportunity, and so we appreciate you for that.
You got it,
and to take a break from the day and laugh a little bit, just have a conversation. So thank you.
You got it, absolutely. Where can people find out more about the magazine, read your stories? Where do they follow you guys?
So our website is tbbwmag.com. You're hard pressed to not find either one of us if you just Google Bridgette Bello or Jason Baker. We certainly have an Instagram, a Facebook, a Twitter, and a LinkedIn from a business perspective, but also from a personal perspective. And it's one of the things we're the proudest of. I mean, our social media is pushing 50,000 people in 4 short years. That's significant. It's significant, yeah. And it, I think, says a lot about, again, the content and and being genuine, right? I mean, we don't just post stories. We post like stupid stuff that is just fun and important to us and gives people a peek inside of, what else we're about besides just TBBW. And so, yeah, it's hopefully you can tell I couldn't be happier and very, very proud of what we've accomplished.
I can definitely tell.
Appreciate you for giving us the chance to talk about it.
You got it. Well, You guys can find our Law of Relevancy podcast anywhere where podcasts are found and across all of our social channels and, of course, bakemorepies.com. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you next time.